but there's a little bit of a gray area when it comes to fair use, or maybe I should say there is a little bit of confusion when it comes to fair use. I constantly hear people say, I'm only using 5 seconds, it's totally fair use, which it's not. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive on fair use. And keep in mind, I am not a lawyer, so do not take this as legal advice. I am just a dope who likes making YouTube videos and has been making music, so I kind of understand copyright or fair use. I will link YouTube's article covering this topic in the episode notes if you want to read more, but they break it down into 4 factors of fair use. Factor 1 is the purpose and character of the use, including whether such use is of commercial nature or is for nonprofit educational purposes. Courts typically focus on whether the use is transformative, that is, whether it adds new expression or meaning to the original, or whether it merely copies from the original. Commercial uses are less likely to be considered fair, though it is possible to monetize a video and still take advantage of the fair use defense. And here is my interpretation of that first factor. Reaction videos where somebody has a very large portion of their screen dedicated to some original content, and they let the entire thing play, and they just have a small face cam in the bottom corner saying, oh wow, and then they're silent for a few minutes, and then they say, my reaction to that video was, that was awesome. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Don't forget to hit that, smash that button, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. I don't think that would fall under fair use, mainly because it is not a transformative work. It is you just adding a few words to the original piece of work. But on the other hand, if you're doing a rebuttal video and it's 10 minutes long and you include a 10-second clip of what somebody says, and you say, well, here is why that person is wrong. Here are some facts and logic, and guess what? They don't care about your g-dang feelings. That would be much more likely to fall under fair use because it is a transformative work. You are adding, what did they call it? Meaning to the original. You added new expression and meaning to the original piece of content. But saying, oh wow, I thought that video was awesome, doesn't really fall under a transformation of that original piece of work. Factor 2 is the nature of the copyrighted work. Using material from primarily factual works is more likely to be fair use than using purely fictional works. This is nothing that I had ever considered. I did not know about this rule, but if you use something that is purely fictional, it's less likely to fall under fair use. So if you are doing anything, quote some facts. Quote some facts from some study, and it's much more likely to be fair use. Factor 3, the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. Borrowing small bits of material from an original work is more likely to be considered fair use than borrowing large portions. However, even a small taking may weigh against fair use in some situations if it constitutes the heart of the work. This is all well and good and everything, but I think this factor is a little bit misleading. I have heard one too many people say, I'm only using 10 seconds of this extremely famous copyrighted material, therefore it's fair use. No, it's not. It is not fair use. You still need to purchase rights to use that copyrighted material, even if you are only using 5 or 10 seconds. Just because you are using a small portion does not mean that it is fair use. It doesn't mean that. Keep in mind that all 4 of these factors are taken into account when you are entering into court to argue fair use, because remember, that's what it is. Fair use is a judgment that will occur if you go to court over copyright infringement. So when you go into court and say, no, me using 10 seconds of a Blink-182 song in my podcast is fair use, they will say, no, it is not a transformative work. You are just stealing that song. So keep that in mind. Just because you're using a small portion of a piece of copyrighted material does not automatically mean that it is fair use. But if you are arguing fair use and you are creating a transformative work and the portions of the original content that you are using are smaller, it is more likely that you will win the case of fair use. So please just keep that in mind. You can't just use anything you want because it's only 10 seconds. That's not how it works. And factor 4 is the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Uses that harm the copyright owner's ability to profit from his or her original work are less likely to be fair uses. Courts have sometimes made an exception under the factor in cases involving parodies. The way that I interpret this and the way that I've always thought about this in terms of fair use is creating a transformative work and creating a work that is not a substitute for the original thing that I am quoting or referencing in the video or the song or the podcast or anything. Let me bring up the reaction channels again. When you are letting the entire video play, you are not pausing it, you are not cutting to anything else, you are just saying, wow, cool, smash subscribe, see you later, that was great. That is not a transformative work, but additionally, it acts as a substitute because you are including the entire video that you are reacting to. Meaning, when somebody finishes watching your reaction to that video or that song, guess what? They don't have to go and watch the original. Therefore, you are directly affecting the profitability of the copyright owner because now they are losing that view. That is it for the 4 factors of fair use. Keep in mind, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. They also include 4 myths of fair use. Let's look at those. Myth 1. If I give credit to the copyright owner, my use is automatically fair use. Nope, you would be 100% wrong. There's a reason why filmmakers don't just use any song that they want and say, well, you know what? I included the artist in the credits. That's not how it works. I remember very specifically, Donnie Darko, the cult classic, had a completely different soundtrack because the filmmakers could not afford the rights to the songs they wanted to use. I eventually saw the director's cut that used the soundtrack that they originally wanted, and I hated it because there was a lot less Tears for Fears. So just because you give credit to the copyright owner does not mean it's fair use. You still have to go through all 4 factors that we just discussed, and also you may have to purchase rights if you want to use something that's copyrighted. Myth 2. If I post a disclaimer on my video, my use is fair use. Wrong again. I have seen this so many times where somebody is clearly infringing copyright, but before the video starts, they include a 10-second freeze frame saying, well, this is not intended to infringe somebody's copyright. It's just intended for fair use. That doesn't mean that it is fair use. You still have to address all of the tenets of fair use and ensure that you are not infringing on a copyright. Just because you say you're not infringing a copyright does not mean that you are not infringing a copyright. You can't go kill somebody and then say, nope, I didn't kill him. You can't do that. So laws are laws, okay, people? You can't just say, nope, I'm not breaking the law. You have to prove that you're not breaking the law. Myth 3, entertainment or nonprofit uses are automatically fair use. Again, you can't just use anything you want. Myth 4, if I add any original content I created to someone else's copyrighted work, my use is fair use. Don't be stupid. Don't be like these reaction channels that add 5 words to an original piece of work and say, well, that's fair use because I had my video on top of it and I said, wow, really cool, I enjoyed that. That's not how it works. You need to make a transformative work that is not a substitution of the original work and does not affect their profitability, their ability to earn money off their copyrighted work.